the risk that the Browns had to take with I love you, Cleveland. And I love you, Ohio. And a very pleasant welcome to this week's version of Bonus Time with Drennan here on the Big Play Sports Network. Hi, I'm Bruce Drennan, along with Ryan Smith, my producer. Hope you had a wonderful Thanksgiving. I won't ask you if you got enough to eat, but certainly I hope you and your family, friends had a wonderful time. How about you, Ryan?
Yes, I had a great time. I didn't watch the parade, so don't worry about that. I don't think I missed anything special about that, but I had a nice, relaxing Thanksgiving. Football was okay. I mean, I napped during the Giants-Cowboys game, and I didn't miss anything there, certainly. So I had a good holiday, Bruce.
Oh, that was quite a matchup anyway. I don't know how you can miss that one. That was the marquee matchup of the season, don't you know? America's team, my eye. Anyway, good to have you with us. We've got plenty to cover, and I want to say at the outset of today's show, I am devoting the entire second segment to Ohio State and college football. Those are two different subjects. You don't want to miss the second segment. But let me begin with the Browns in the first segment. I've got a little bit of Cavs for you and some baseball news. But what a game. What an entertaining game. But I will say it was typical Jameis Winston, the good, the bad. And the bad is why he isn't the quarterback of the future for the Browns. But I want to talk about the good. And let me correct myself. Great. Not good, but great. I've heard some commentators since the game Monday night and trashing the Browns. What's the point at this point? We know what this season is. It's a total failure because of the Watson fiasco. So what's the point of trashing them in what was actually one of the most entertaining NFL games of the season? I'm not going to sit here and do that today with our show. I've certainly had my tell it like it is critical programs, justifiably in my opinion, about the Browns. But that is not what's going to be the case today. Like I say, don't miss the second segment. But Winston threw for a Browns franchise record of 497 yards. That's incredible. That exceeds the previous record of 457. Ryan, you know who held that record?
I believe that was Mr. Josh McCown.
He cheats.
Nope, no cheating here.
He's a sharp young broadcaster from University of Cincinnati. He's a Bearcat. Josh McCown. Can you believe it? It wasn't Bernie. It wasn't Sipe. It certainly wasn't Vinny Testaverde. Josh McCown. Happened in 2015. Winston threw 4 touchdown passes, but he threw 3 picks. And they were costly picks. Now, the reason I say typical Winston is because in 2019, when he was with Tampa Bay, get this, he led the NFL in yards passing, 5,109. He was second in the entire NFL with 33 touchdown passes. However, he led the league in interceptions with 33. I beg your pardon, 33. So anyway, I also want to point out that Jerry Jeudy had a record-setting day himself. He was motivated, obviously, because he was up against his old team. But do you realize his 235 yards receiving is the most by a receiver against that receiver's former team in the history of the NFL? Just a tremendous game by both record game by both Winston and Judy. But I'm not here today, Ryan, to just trash the Browns. What's the point? I'm hearing on all these radio talk shows, oh, the Browns, I can't handle it. Their record now is 3-9. Hey, if you don't know by now that this is a lost failure season, then I don't know where you've been hibernating with the Bears.
Yeah, I mean,
about Chicago.
Jameis Winston, at the very least, he's made the Browns offense fun again. He's made the Browns offense watchable again. He's made the Browns team in entirety watchable again, just from his personality off the field and certainly on the field. He's a fun player to watch. The great comes with the bad, of course, and that's why, he was available. That's why he's been a career backup, is because turnovers are the one thing you can't have in the NFL, and Kevin Stefanski knows that. He hates turnovers. And yeah, that's probably the one thing that's stopping Jameis Winston from being the answer for the Browns is the pick sixes. Often when you lose a turnover battle, you don't win games, and often when Jameis is throwing 2 picks a game, that's what happens. But at the very least, you got a chance with Jameis Winston at quarterback, and especially in this game, to see what other people can do. Jerry Jeudy, mainly that reason, right? 235 yards is just incredible, and the pick six is obviously hurt, but Jameis has the arm strength. He has the intelligence to get the ball where it needs to be. Oftentimes that comes at the cost of, we talked about the pick sixes, but it's just insane. It's peak Browns football, the fact that you give a guy $230 million, you get absolute squat from him. He gets hurt the first year, you get a 38-year-old setting franchise records and Joe Flacco leading you to the playoffs. Happens again this season, he goes down with the Achilles injury. Now you have a career backup 30-year-old throwing for a Browns franchise record in yards, Bruce. It's something you couldn't make up.
Yeah, you can't script this. That's for sure. What, is Chubb okay? Why was he on the sideline so much during the first half? They never did say, They didn't say, and I think it was something along 24 straight snaps missed, and it's no secret using the eye test, just that you can see he's not the running back that he was before the injury, and obviously that's just something very hard to come back from, watching your knee get blown up, and the fact that he's getting up there in age and the lifespan of a running back. I just hope that give him a full offseason. I think he's definitely here next year. The future's unwritten beyond that. But I'd like to think, if I'm going to give anybody the benefit of a doubt to rehab from that, have a whole offseason, I'm going to give the benefit to Nick Chubb. But, man, it's no secret
Ryan,
that...
what did I say several weeks ago?
Trade him.
If he's never going to be the running back that he was, and there was suspicion, why not, get what you can? He's still serviceable. Even if it's a lower round draft, get what you can. The rebuild of this team, we had Josh Cribbs on the show last week, and I never asked you if you agreed with Josh or not. He didn't think the rebuild was that mountainous. I do. It does all revolve around the quarter. He didn't think he said the quarterback obviously is a key ingredient, but he gave the impression that they could very well come back next year. I don't see that. Do you?
No, and the reason is, it's just, it stinks because the Browns have yet to get a quarterback, man, since they've been back. And it's just so infuriating because that's the key. That's everything. That's Josh Allen, the Patrick Mahomes, the Lamar Jackson, the Joe Burrows. Why do they go to the Super Bowl? Because they have an all-star quarterback, an all-NFL quarterback, right? And the Browns can't get that. Now, is it possible next year? No, that's the problem, is because looking right now, I think your best case is bringing Jameis back. And is that going to be enough? No, we know it's not going to be enough. And what that Deshaun Watson deal did is, like you always say all the time, Bruce, it set you back so many years because you didn't have that first round draft capital to reload. You're seeing everything, the consequences of that deal unfold. And it's going to take more than just one season to get that back.
All right. Next up, obviously, is a very tough challenge as we got Pittsburgh next, right?
Yes, we do.
And hello. That's at Pittsburgh, too. So, all right, let me get to the rest of the NFL because there's some interesting news, and then I've got some other tidbits for you. Houston defeated Jacksonville 23-20, and the Texans now improved to 8-5 with this narrow victory, but this game will be remembered for Azeez Al-Sharir and his helmet-to-helmet hit on Trevor Lawrence, the Jacksonville quarterback, after Lawrence had slid and gave himself up. And this bum goes helmet to helmet. And don't tell me that wasn't intentional. And it's not the first time he's done this.
Now, I think very, 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 very severe action should be taken against him. Am I wrong?
Yeah, but I believe it's a 3-game suspension that he's now trying to appeal, and I believe you can still play while you're appealing that.
Yes, that's true.
And it's the way the NFL's going.
Blatant.
Everything's I agree. It was blatant, and it's
he might have ended. He could have that kind of a hit when a quarterback gives himself up like that and slides, and he still with momentum lowered his helmet and bam came into him helmet to helmet. To me, just totally. I would have suspended him for the rest of the season. I really would have, and without pay. Heck with him. Pittsburgh defeated Cincinnati 44-38, and the Steelers find ways to win. Even in a high-scoring game, they wouldn't be able to do that if they didn't have Russell Wilson. I can guarantee you that. They improved to 9-3, and they win. Their defense actually won the game, in my opinion. This is what I say to you when you say defense. Defense can win, can be responsible for you winning a high-scoring game. This game was a perfect example of that. Perfect example of it. And it was opportunistic Pittsburgh football playing Cincinnati's brand of ball, high-scoring, a lot of passing type of a pro game, rather than the close to the vest, defensively oriented turnover costs you here and there. Turnovers did cost Cincinnati, but Burrow had another great game in defeat. He had 3 touchdown passes, and he had a quarterback rating of 112.7. How much can you ask from this guy from Athens, Ohio?
Yeah, it's crazy. Mike Tomlin, another winning season under his belt, notched up like that. Just crazy what he's been able to do with the lack of quarterback talent. But that's not to say Russell Wilson has been tremendous ever since he retook that starting role from Justin Fields and getting healthy. And Cincinnati Bengals defense, probably the worst in the NFL. And for a guy like Joe Burrow, who statistically is having one of his, if not greatest seasons, I mean, it's got to be just so infuriating for Bengals fans. Like, we're failing because we don't have a franchise quarterback. They have one of the best franchise quarterbacks, and they're still failing.
Philadelphia defeating Baltimore 24-19. Philadelphia improving to 10-2, and Baltimore falling to 8-5. And Justin Tucker, who's supposedly the greatest kicker that ever lived, missed 2 field goals and an extra point in this game. That, for all intents and purposes, might have cost them the victory, point-wise, certainly. But Henry versus Barkley, Jackson versus Hurts, maybe a preview of the Super Bowl. And I found it a fascinating matchup. Philadelphia's for real. There's no question. If they were to meet again, I could see Baltimore beating Philadelphia. Who knows? It may happen in the Super Bowl. Here's something that won't happen in the regular season. Philadelphia in the NFC does not play Detroit in the regular season. But obviously, that looks like the NFC Championship, does it not?
Yeah, I believe Detroit right now, it's hard to say they're not the best team in the entire NFL, but I think it's also hard to say at this point that Philadelphia isn't the second best team in the NFC. I understand that the Vikings have the record. I don't think they're really that good as their record displays. They've had some close games lately, and the Packers are a good team, but I don't think they compete like the Eagles do. So I believe that will be the NFC Championship game there, Bruce, 100%.
How about Buffalo defeating San Francisco 35-10 in a blizzard? And I guess they had volunteer workers shoveling the stands.
You get $20 an hour and food, I believe.
It better be hot soup, real hot. Buffalo versus Kansas City. It could be the AFC Championship. McCaffrey got hurt again. I think for all intents and purposes, Frisco's done, even in that weak division. Don't you agree?
Yeah, absolutely. Now you're going to be without McCaffrey the rest of the season. Jordan Mason might not come back until the last week of the season, and at that, they're already going to be out of it. Just an awful year for 49ers. Failed expectations completely. But that happens. They lost Brandon Ayuk early in the season. Just a complete down year. We'll see what they do next season.
And Kansas City over the Thanksgiving weekend defeated their arch rival Las Vegas 19-17. I'm not surprised by that score because that's a rivalry. Chiefs improved to 11-1. Detroit on Thanksgiving Day had all they could handle with the Chicago Bears 23-20. But like the Browns, the Bears find a way to lose. And the Bears had a fabulous chance to win this game and upset the Lions in front of their home fans, but they blew it with that horrible clock management that that cost Ebersol his job. They fired him right afterward, and deservingly. The LA Chargers defeated Atlanta 17-13, so Harbaugh's got the Chargers clicking. They look like a very solid choice for a wild card team here in the AFC as they improve to 8-4. Atlanta's 6-6, and they're in a weak division in the NFC South, so they're very much alive and in first place as we speak. Minnesota defeated Arizona 23-22, and what a devastating loss this was for the Cardinals and for Kyler Murray, because they had the lead the entire game. They looked great, but the Vikings came back on them and improved to 10-2. They have such great receivers, that Jefferson, and the Cardinals 6-6, and they're only trailing Seattle by a game at 7-5 in the NFC West. So there you have it. By the way, I wanted to point out, as far as Baltimore losing their game to Philadelphia and Pittsburgh winning their game against Cincinnati, consider this as far as our division. It doesn't affect the Browns. Pittsburgh has these games remaining. At home against Cleveland should be a win for them. At Philadelphia. At Baltimore. Home to Kansas City. And then they close out home against Cincinnati. Baltimore is in a bye week. And then they play at New York against the Giants. I think Ohio State might be able to beat them, although, I should wait till the second segment. Don't miss it, I'm telling you. Pittsburgh at home. This is Baltimore now. At Houston. And home to close out the regular season against Cleveland. So this thing isn't over, but Pittsburgh obviously has the advantage.
Yeah, no, it's not over. And I could really see if Cleveland manages to beat Pittsburgh, and I don't expect them to, but I mean, we've seen AFC North is crazy. Anytime you get these divisional rivals, anything's possible. They already beat them once. And then Baltimore goes ahead and beats Pittsburgh, their second matchup of the season. Then Baltimore probably wins the AFC North, given that I don't expect the Steelers to beat Philly or the Kansas City Chiefs.
Cavaliers with a 118-87 victory over Washington, up 15 after the first quarter last night, 20 at the half. 7 Cavs in double figures, almost 8 because Okoro had 9 points in the game. Niang, Merrill, LeVert combined for 38 points. And I'm glad I mentioned them because obviously LeVert didn't play in the first Boston game, but the Cavs coming off that 115-111 victory against Boston, that's a big win. That proves that the Cavs can beat the best, the defending champions. Mitchell in that game, 35, Garland, 22. And remember, Okoro and LeVert did not play in the first game. And in this game against Boston, they combined for 19 points and 8 rebounds. And in fairness, though, Boston was out without 2 starters, Jaylen Brown and Derek White. But that was a big one for sure, Ryan. And I don't know what the NBA can do, but they got to do something about the end of the game with these fouls and free throws. It is so tediously torturous.
I believe the last minute of regulation playtime in that Cavs-Celtics game lasted around 17 minutes of real time, which is absolutely nuts. And I totally agree. There's no need that a minute of playtime should almost be 20 minutes, Bruce.
What's with Atlanta? 2 wins, back-to-back wins against our Cavs, as good as the Cavs are.
Atlanta's very interesting because, yes, they obviously beat us twice, but if you go back, they also beat the Celtics without Trae Young. And I don't know if it's something they just have our number, but I guess they're a team to look out for.
Or something.
I was blown away, Bruce.
Yeah, I don't get that at all. Anyway, the Cavs are still rolling, and God bless them. They're playing great basketball. They should be much more of the talk of the NBA than what they are, quite frankly. Couple of baseball notes. Matthew Boyd, who we picked up, and brilliant pickup by Antonetti and Chernoff, for us, and he benefited us going down the stretch and in the playoffs. He pitched very well, but he just signed a big contract. Good for him with the Cubs. They paid him a lot of money, and so he's going to reap the benefits. Looks like Soto is down to 5 teams: the Mets, the Yankees, Boston, Toronto, and the Dodgers. And it looks like the Mets and Boston have the inside track, according to all reports. Big Pappy, the former great Boston Red Sox DH, is campaigning with Soto and his agent to bring him to Boston. looking at a $600 million contract he's expected to sign by the end of the upcoming winter meetings. That's going to be December 9th through the 12th. Maybe before, though. Who knows? That would be big news. But the New York Yankees are meeting with starting pitchers Corbin Burns and Max Fried, the former Brave. So I don't think they're going to be able to retain Soto. So they'll have to turn their attention in a different fashion. With that being said, they may move Judge back to right field, seek out a more defensively oriented center fielder. That's just my speculation. But they can't go after a big bat DH because they got Stanton.
Yeah, it would be interesting. It'd be nice if you got Juan Soto out of the American League, of course, but him going to Boston, I mean, that would make it very interesting, that rivalry between the Boston Red Sox and the New York Yankees.
And you know why Toronto's in the mix? Because you don't pay tax up there. You know.
I didn't think about that.
Oh, yeah.
I didn't think about that.
That's why they can offer more money up there, too. And so he might, don't count them out. Teaming up with Guerrero and company. You know, you talk about the punch, a 1-2 punch with Judge. That's quite a 1-2 punch with Guerrero. All right, let me go to break. When we come back, we'll talk about Ohio State and college football. You won't want to miss this segment. Bonus time with Drennan. Big Play Sports Network. I love you, Menor Nissan. Hi, Bruce Drennan here for my good friends out at Menor Nissan, where I'm so proud to have them as a sponsor here on Bonus Time with Drennan on the Big Play Sports Network. Ray Sminchak and his staff, and Jamie Pillar, who he has just teamed up with to be co-owners of not only Menor Nissan, but Infinity of Akron, Infinity of Beechwood. You're going to be hearing a lot more about those Infinities here on Bonus Time with Drennan. But Menor Nissan, I drive two Rogues. I have two Rogues, one for my wife, one for myself. I used to have a Murano, which was fabulous, but now we have two Rogues. Menor Nissan gives you the best offers on new Nissan purchases and leases. And they have an impressive selection of certified pre-owned and top used cars as well. Menor Nissan prides themselves on having knowledgeable, friendly sales team who will help you into fuel-efficient, innovative, and stylish models to suit your needs. And their superior credit program and helpful finance team will help every step of the way. So Menor Nissan, located minutes off I-90, beautiful Menor. To be precise, 6960 Center Street in Menor. The phone number is 440-951-1100. That's 440-951-1100. And check out the new 2025 Nissan Kicks. They encourage you to come on out and test drive the vehicles, which is a great thing. My Rogue has the intelligent forward collision warning. There's the Pathfinder. There's the Altima. There's the all-new Kicks, the all-new 2025 Nissan Murano. So tell Ray Sminchak and company you heard it here on Bonus Time with Drennan, but you don't have to. They know. They're such wonderful people. I've been their spokesperson and proud to be their spokesperson now for quite a few years, and they're absolutely fabulous. All the dealerships that I have been affiliated with in my long career here in Ohio, I got to tell you, Menor Nissan, right at the top. Menor Nissan. Oh, I love you, Menor Nissan. What an embarrassment. A catastrophic embarrassment for Buckeye Nation. Ohio State was a 21-point favorite. And I heard that the line went up as much as 23.5 points in Vegas at kickoff. Can you imagine if you took Michigan with all those points? You were probably drunk after the first quarter. Get this. That is the biggest point spread in the rivalry between Michigan and Ohio State since 1978. 46 years. Shame on head coach Ryan Day. Shame on you. And shame on Kelly, the offensive coordinator. You know, over the years and decades, for that matter, I've interviewed many sportscasters and sports writers who cover Ohio State football in Columbus. I find them to be overwhelmingly apologists for Ohio State football. And the reason is because they don't want to get blackballed. That's how powerful Ohio State football program is over the media in Columbus. So here it is. I'm going to tell it like it is to you with no fear whatsoever on the Big Play Sports Network. If Ohio State doesn't make it to the national championship, Ryan Day should be fired. And I'll take it a step further, and this is worthy of discussion. If he gets to the national championship and doesn't win the national championship, there is a large percentage of the Ohio State faithful that I would speculate would say, still get rid of him. Especially if they get blown out. Let's say they get to the national championship game, they get blown out. Then I don't think there'll be any question they're going to call for his head. What horrible preparation for the Michigan game. What a ridiculous so-called game plan. You know, after Howard threw that interception at the 13-yard line, picked off by Hall, and he returned it to the 2-yard line, and that set up the only Michigan touchdown, Mullings running it over from the 1. After that pick, for whatever reason, Day and Kelly stopped throwing to the perimeter. It was mind-boggling. The tremendously talented Ohio State skilled receivers were a non-factor in this game. Are you kidding me? They're all going to be playing on Sunday. That was the Ohio State huge advantage that they had against Michigan in this matchup. Superior talent on the perimeter. Get the ball to these skilled playmakers and let them do their thing. We didn't see that at all. Let them do their thing in the open field. Especially considering that Michigan was without one of their best players, cornerback Will Johnson. Unbelievable. Ohio State kept running the ball up the middle. I was going insane. That's the strength of the Michigan defense. And where is the in-game adjustments by Day and Kelly? And then this Jaden Fielding missing field goals. That was another factor. And I don't want to hear the Columbus apologists saying, well, anything can happen in this rivalry. It's a great rivalry. It's the best rivalry on the face of the planet. Michigan lost 18 starters out of 22 on offense and defense from that national championship team a year ago. They were 6-5 coming into this game in Columbus. They lost to lowly Washington 27-17. Washington 6-6. They got clobbered by Illinois 21-7. When was the last time the Michigan lost to Illinois? Remember, the classless gesture by Day the week before against Indiana. When Henderson did the Class C thing and slid down at the 1-yard line. And then Day gave Howard permission to push it in for a touchdown instead of taking a couple of knees and ending the game right then and there. After the game, the reporter on the field asked Day about it, and he said, well, we wanted to make sure. Wanted to make sure? The Buckeyes were up 31-15. Not only was there no way that Indiana could come back, but they already had covered the spread. We wanted to make sure. Then he and he awed, and he says, we're Ohio State. We have to show we're Ohio State. That's 4 in a row he's lost to Michigan. 4 in a row. Now, the only thing that we can be proud of is that the Ohio State players protected and defended our home turf when that idiot, arrogant Michigan player took that flag and tried to plant it in the middle of the Buckeye at the 50-yard line. And then Mullings, in a post-game interview, stupidly said, and I quote, they have to learn how to lose. What an ignoramus. And he had a great game, but still. This, of course, all started with Mayfield when he was at Oklahoma, and he tried to do that and plant the flag. And then all the copycats. Do you realize what happened after the Ohio State game? Boy, word spreads quick. Florida State, same thing. Big brawl occurred. And North Carolina State, big brawl occurred. And then Arizona State tried to plant the nicknames, the Sun Devils. So they tried to plant a pitchfork in the end zone. Same thing. $100,000 fine for both Michigan and Ohio State, which is, what? Spit in a bucket. That's nothing. Nothing. What should have occurred is that Michigan gets fined $1 million and Ohio State $100,000, okay? But the NCAA is powerless. They're powerless. They've got to stop this somehow, some way, but they're powerless, so I don't really have an answer for you. Ryan, chime in.
Yeah, I mean, that game was an utter embarrassment for Ohio State. Listen, you knew the only way that Michigan was going to come into Columbus and win that game, have any chance of winning that game, is they're just going to run the ball, run the clock, and trying to keep that offense off the field. And what Ryan Day failed to do, adjustment-wise, like you said, was just honestly mind-boggling. Now, you lost 4 straight to Michigan. You already were on the hot seat. Now, this is insane. I agree with you, Bruce. The only chance that he keeps his job is if you win the national championship, right? And I don't think that's going to happen. Will Howard played horrible, right? And you talk about no targets for Jeremiah Smith in the second half of that game. You didn't score a point in the third quarter, and you got outrushed by about 100 yards in the second half. I mean, I don't know what Ohio State was doing, right? You have all these talented perimeter players, like you say. All of them are going to be playing on Sundays. What you need to start doing maybe is, I don't know, maybe start recruiting linemen to win the trenches, because these last 5 games...
Out-physicaled at home in Columbus in front of the home fans. Good point.
The last half decade, that's how it's been. That's been Michigan's strength, and they played right into their hand. I mean, you talk about getting out-coached. Credit to Sharon Moore, who questioned after Harbaugh, is he really going to take this thing? They've had a bad season, but hell, now they're looking at the season as a win because they beat Ohio State. The 21-point spread you mentioned, Bruce, yeah. How many players on Ohio State are going to be playing on Sundays on this specific team versus Michigan? It's crazy. And they were without their cornerback, like you said, who, by the way, is going to be a top 10 pick in next year's NFL draft. Yeah. Utter embarrassment for Ryan Day in Columbus.
Yeah, I know. All right, so there's that. We'll see what happens now. But as far as the playoffs, here's the other thing that really sticks to me. I can't get over this ridiculous format that they've adopted for the upcoming college football playoffs, and now it's expanded to 12 teams. The Mountain West Championship has number 20 UNLV 10-2 against number 10 Boise State 11-1. What if UNLV wins that game? Does that keep SMU or Boise State out of it at 11-2? And then the number 20th ranked team in the country, which would move up, they're in, and they get a bye. Big 12, Iowa State, 10-2. They're ranked number 16 in the country. Now they play Arizona State, 10-2. They're number 15 in the country. Iowa State lost to Texas Tech and Kansas, and Arizona State lost to Texas Tech and Ryan Cincinnati Bearcats. Not exactly the team that they had when the Mook Fickle was there. So there's another weak link. That winner is likely. If Boise State gets knocked off or if SMU gets knocked off, do you realize that Arizona State, if they win, will get a bye?
And what's the most crazy part about this, Bruce? If SMU does go ahead and lose that game, yes, you're either giving, like you said, a 2-loss Big 12 team, Iowa State or Arizona State, the winner of that game, the bye, or it's even possible, based on how they do the rankings, that if Clemson beats SMU, they'll be a 3-loss ACC champion. They have the potential to go ahead and get a bye.
Don't get ahead of me. Let's go to the SEC, where number 6 Georgia 10-2 against number 2 Texas 11-1. And I've mentioned to you, now that Ohio State lost to Michigan, there's no possibility of Ohio State playing Oregon 3 times, but there is still a possibility that Georgia and Texas could meet 3 times in one season. That's absolutely unheard of and ridiculous in college football, in my opinion. Georgia lost to Alabama and Mississippi. Alabama's number 11, by the way, and Texas's only loss was to Georgia. Now, if Texas wins, does a 3-loss Georgia deserve to be in? I believe they do, which is another reason why I'm for eliminating the conference championships. You've heard me say that time and time again here on our show. To me, they're meaningless. They're actually detrimental, in my opinion, to this new format, and it makes the committee's job even more controversial because of upsets that inevitably are going to occur. The ACC. This is what Ryan was referring to. Clemson's number 17 in the country with a 9-3 record, and SMU's 11-1, ranked number 8. Their only loss was to BYU. Clemson lost to Georgia Tech, Louisville, and South Carolina, or Georgia, Louisville, and South Carolina. And they're number 17 in the country. If they win this game, if they upset SMU, does SMU get eliminated from the playoff at 11-2? And Clemson gets in with 3 losses and gets a bye. And then there's the Big Ten with Penn State and Oregon. And Penn State's only loss, of course, was to Ohio State, which in my opinion is no longer an impressive loss. Possible playoff teams. We can all agree that Oregon, Penn State, Ohio State, and Indiana are in from the Big Ten, regardless of what happens in the Penn State-Oregon Big Ten championship. You agree with that?
100%.
SEC. Texas and Tennessee are definitely in, even if Texas loses. But does Georgia get in with 3 losses? Alabama's going to have 3 losses, and Mississippi's got, I think Mississippi's out. But Alabama could get in over with 3 losses over a 2-loss SMU or another 2-loss team like Boise State, which creates more controversy too.
Yeah, and that's the problem, is because now you have SMU in the ACC championship game with 2 losses, right? And now you're telling them, if they lose, they're probably going to be out. So you're penalizing them for making it to the conference championship when they're already ranked ahead of Alabama. Why can't they just go ahead and say, hey, I'm not playing this conference champion. You already ranked me above Alabama and going into the final rankings. That's horse manure. You're making me play an extra game, and you're going to penalize me for potentially losing and kick me out of the playoffs and put Alabama in.
The 12 winner is in. That's Iowa State or Arizona State. The loser's definitely out. The ACC winner is in. Clemson, though, as I said. The Mountain West, if Boise State wins, they're in. And they get a bye.
Yep.
But if UNLV wins and is ranked below the Big 12 winner, what happens then? I mean, it's unbelievable how screwed up this new system is. I'm positive they they couldn't have possibly envisioned this. And I don't care how they try to spin it, that, this is great for college football. Everybody's talking about it. Bull. I think it really diminishes the regular season. And then finally, why should first of all, how about Miami? Miami could get ousted because they're ranking right now below Alabama with 3 losses. Because Miami got beat the other day by Syracuse. They get screwed. And I'm not saying that Alabama isn't a better team than Miami, but I'm just pointing out how flawed this ridiculous new 12-team format is. And then they're talking about going to 16, can you imagine? But here's my final point. How about Notre Dame being penalized for not being in a conference? They're number 4 in the country in the college football playoff committee's rankings. They're number 4. and they don't get a bye because they're not in a conference. Why should a conference championship almost automatically get in and get a bye? I don't get that either. What if Alabama gets in, Miami doesn't? Alabama's 3 losses, Miami's 2. Last year, undefeated Florida State got snubbed because their quarterback went down. And I happen to agree with that at the time because I believe that the committee's commitment to picking the 4 best teams was, but no more. That's a lie. That is a total lie on their part. Like politicians lie. That's what they're doing. They're lying to us. They also snubbed Georgia last year, who was definitely one of the top 4 teams in the country. And this format is big time flawed. How about if SMU loses, Alabama with 3 losses gets in, ACC no respect, Alabama losing to unranked Oklahoma alone, unranked, that should cause a definite disqualification. Alabama lost to Vanderbilt. They're 6-6. DeBoer is not Saban. Go ahead.
I was going to say, I believe if I'm thinking about this rankings and stuff correctively, if UNLV does go ahead and beat Boise State's out of the playoff. I don't even know. UNLV wouldn't be a top 4 highest ranked conference, so they wouldn't even get a bye. I'm not even sure if they'd get in or if they'd have to be allowed in.
How can they not get in? How can they not get in if they're going by what the standards they've met with conference champions getting highest ranked conference? They beat Boise State, who they've got ranked above all these other teams.
And if that does happen, Bruce, then I believe you'd be looking at, of course, you'd have Oregon, the number 1 overall seed with a bye, Texas, the number 2 overall seed with a bye. But then I believe you would have the 2-loss Big 12 conference winner, whether that's Arizona State or Iowa State. They'd get a bye. And then I believe that would force you to put Clemson at 9-3. They'll be 10-3 if they win the ACC champion. They'll get a bye at 10-3 conference champions.
With the conference championships, what they never will because of the money.
And that's exactly what I want to say. That's exactly the problem with this whole 12-team format. I like the idea, I get it, but what they're trying to do is they're trying to prove to give these smaller teams, these Boise States, these SMUs, they want to make them believe they actually have a chance to go make noise and win a national championship when you know damn well they don't even want them to win it.
They've got a chance, yeah, but they've got a chance. If do away with the conference championships and the committee chooses, makes their final ranking, the top 12 teams get in. A Boise State could feasibly get in that form if they did it that way. SMU certainly would at 1 loss out of the ACC. So, I don't know. Was it worth me promoting to you that you shouldn't miss the second segment?
Absolutely.
You be the judge. Ask Bruce segment is next. Bonus time with Drennan on the Big Play Sports Network. Once again, happy Thanksgiving. You wouldn't know it was a great celebration this last weekend after the tirade I went off on in the last segment, but I think deservingly. Don't you?
Oh, absolutely.
Don't you? All right, Ask Bruce segment, fire.
Alrighty, hey Bruce, if Ryan Day is indeed let go at the end of this season, do you have any candidates in mind to succeed Day as head coach in Columbus?
I'm so upset over that.
And also, do you think
he was out coach? Go ahead.
Do you think there's a chance that Mike Vrabel would come back and coach the Buckeyes?
Yeah, now that it looks like Stefanski with Winston playing, throwing for all this yardage, I think that might save Stefanski's job, quite frankly. So, yeah, he'd be an ideal candidate, but I hadn't even thought about it, quite frankly. It's a great question, but because I think it's inevitable now. He's either got to win the national championship or lose by a last-second field goal. That's the only thing that saves his job, in my opinion.
Alrighty, hey Bruce, I think I know your answer on this one because you definitely talked about it, but this was written before. Hey Bruce, do you think it's fair that Notre Dame can't get a bye because they're independent?
What a joke. How unfair to Notre Dame. Now, I think the committee and the public in general have an animosity toward Notre Dame because they're quite audacious when it comes to maintaining their independence in football. And the reason they do that is because of their tradition going back over a century. And now in the modern times because of their contract with NBC. That's the bottom line. But yeah, it's so unfair to Notre Dame.
Alrighty,
absolutely.
Hey Bruce.
Boise State and these other teams get a bye, and Notre Dame, ranked number 4 in the country, has to play.
Hey, Bruce, is flag planting disrespectful, and does it need to be banned moving forward?
Absolutely. Or you're going to have this continuing. Absolutely, it should be banned. Now, what is the punishment if some kid is defiant of that? Because their kids are kids and they're stupid. Not generally speaking, but, where's the common sense? The kid from Michigan, Mullings, in the interview saying, they got to learn how to lose. That was the only thing I was proud of with our players in the game the other day. Like I said, I'll reiterate. I was very proud of them. And to say both teams are at fault. Bull! The visiting team pulling off an upset, trying to plant the flag and spit in the faces of that opposing team that was just demoralized by the defeat anyway.
Alrighty, hey, Bruce, flipping over to baseball. After losing Matthew Boyd, who's now signed with the Chicago Cubs, how critical is it that the Guardians retain Shane Bieber?
I think it's very critical, even though he may not be ready by the start of the season. So what? If he misses a third or if he doesn't even come back until the All-Star break, so what? Look at Cole with the Yankees. He didn't come back until the All-Star break. So, yes, I think it's very critical, and I think he'll give us a franchise-friendly contract because his market value is diminished so tremendously because, unfortunately, of his injury. But, yeah, very critical. And leave it to Antonetti and Chernoff. They'll come up with something, and who's to say McKenzie and Logan Allen won't come back with better pitchers because of learning their lesson going to the minors? That's all the time, unfortunately, we have for this week's version of Bonus Time with Drennan here on the Big Play Sports Network. Hope you enjoyed the show. Enjoy the holidays. Drive carefully because of all the traffic now with the holidays upon us. I'm Bruce Drennan on behalf of Ryan Smith. Have a great week. We'll see you next week. And until then, as always, and most importantly, you remember, I love you, Ohio. And I love you, Cleveland.